Hi, I'm Elise Chaffins, and I'm here today with Sarah Kambe Holland to talk about her new film, Egghead and Twinkie, coming to video on demand on April 29th. Thank you so much for speaking with me today, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Elise.
Absolutely. So, your film is the first to find its funding through TikTok. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you made that happen?
Yeah, that was such a wild and crazy journey. Basically, what happened was we were supposed to shoot the film in the summer of 2020, but then obviously we all know how that went.
Right.
So shooting was kind of postponed indefinitely, and I was just trying to do as much as I could on the pre-pro side of things with this like extended time that we now had. So it was during that time that I thought, oh, everyone's on TikTok, we're all stuck inside. Let me try promoting the movie on the platform. And it was just one of those like lightning in a bottle things. It blew up overnight. There was a really big, all of a sudden, there were like 100,000 people that were interested in hearing more about the film. So that ended up being a really large part of our crowdfunding campaign and our marketing campaign to get the movie made.
Absolutely. One of the most really visually striking things in the film is the way that you integrate animation into it. Can you talk about your decision to use that in the film and how you kind of made that work with the story?
Yeah, I love animation. So I knew that I wanted to mix animation with live action for this film, especially because the main character, Twinkie, is an artist and she wants to be an animator herself. So that was a really fun process where basically I wrote in the cues for a lot of the animation in the script, and then it was just a matter of finding the right animator, the right collaborator to bring this to life. So that's actually where TikTok came in clutch again. I went on TikTok and I basically posted a crew call, kind of describing what we were looking for, the type of animation and how it would be used. And we had over 100 animators submit from all over. And that's how we found our lead animator, Dylan Cefalo, who came on and we collaborated to make this happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that we're seeing more media about teens coming out and just queer teens in general. Can you just talk about kind of being a little bit on the forefront in this movement, especially right now?
Yeah, it's in a really exciting time. And I'm seeing more and more young queer stories being told, and I find that to be really exciting. Um, I feel like a big show that everyone talks about is Heartstopper, and that
Hmm.
actually came out while we were towards the end of post for this movie. And there's a lot of similarities, I think, not just in like the use of animation, but just in telling kind of hopeful, happy young queer stories.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that kids now, as they're coming out, that there's more media that they can turn to. Because I know when I was growing up, there wasn't really a lot out there.
Yeah.
Aimed at teens, I mean.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You kind of touched on this a little bit, but can you just talk about walking that line between speaking authentically about the difficulties of coming out and being a queer person just in the world, but also not just turning the film into a big like trauma dump, because I feel like that was kind of a lot of like early queer cinema, especially tends to be this traumatic kind of thing. And this kind of avoids that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so important that we have both, because coming out can be really traumatic and awful. And I do think it's important to acknowledge that side of it. And so I'm grateful that those stories exist. But at the same time, it's like there needs to be the other side of it too, to show that you can get through it and that there will be people that support you and that you can fall in love and all the exciting, wonderful parts about coming out and owning who you are. So I feel really grateful that I was in a position to be able to tell that story because I think it's needed.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other things kind of along these lines is that a lot of these movies tend to wrap everything up really neatly with a bow. And I really appreciated that in this movie, like Twinkie's parents don't fully come around and Egghead doesn't just stop having a crush and like these kind of things that just could make it a lot tidier. But this still manages to be really hopeful and light. Can you talk about just kind of making some of those decisions on which way to go with the story?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Because yeah, that was something I thought about a lot was how to end things, especially with the parents. Because,
Mhm.
Egghead and Twinkie, they go on this long road trip, and when they come back, you think, oh, there's going to be this reunion scene maybe with her parents or some sort of resolution there. But ultimately, I thought on it and I was like, I don't really want that. I feel like that's not really what this story is about. It's about
Mhm.
her embracing herself and, knowing that her best friend has her back. What her parents think is kind of secondary. And I think that that's what life is like. People don't come around that quick. Like they need time. Her parents are gonna need time to fully get on board. And I think that that's just a reflection of real life. So I wanted to include that in the script.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that I like is that as much as this film is about coming out and everything, it's also about Twinkie's like understanding of herself from like a racial perspective. Can you talk some about just the choices that you made in writing that and where to go with that?
Yeah, that was maybe the part of the script that made me the most nervous to write about. Because the film is so, light and happy and silly and like a gay road trip romp. But, Twinkie's identity is intersectional. She's
Mhm.
a lesbian, but she's also mixed Asian, she's also adopted, and all of these things affect who she is and how she feels and moves through the world. So I think for myself as a writer, that was a very personal thing I wanted to include was just her struggle with not feeling Asian enough or not really feeling like she belongs anywhere. For myself as like a mixed Asian person, I think that that's something that kind of was rooted in some truth for me. So it was a little scary writing that into the script, but it's been really rewarding to listen and hear audience reactions to that scene in particular. I think it resonates with people because I think they can tell that there's truth in it.
Yeah, yeah. So, how important was it to you to stage a portion of this film in Texas specifically?
Oh boy, yeah. The film is it takes place in both Florida and Texas,
Yeah.
the two places that I've lived. So yeah, very personal. Yeah, on the trip they're driving from Florida to Texas, and that is a route that I've driven many times because I kind of grew up in Texas and then I went to Florida for college, so I was driving back and forth, that route many, many times.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, just as people are watching this movie and, connecting with it, what are some of the takeaways that you would want folks to have as they engage with this film?
Oh wow. Well, I hope that people watch this film and then they want to call their best friend after. I hope it makes them feel a little closer and maybe appreciative of the people in their lives that do accept them for who they are. Um, yeah, I think it's a really kind of like heartwarming escapism that maybe people need right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think having those like kind moments, especially now, and especially for queer folks, is just really, really important. Absolutely. All right. Well, I thank you so much for taking time to speak with me. I really appreciate it. This is a lovely film, and I just wish you so much luck with it.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Absolutely. Have a lovely day.
You too. Thanks.